Hey folks, we're going to do some compression tests. A lot of people talk about compression tests online, and if you don't know what they are or what they do, then it's easy to be deceived as to what they are in fact telling you. But this is a compressor from GSL, SSL G4. This is somewhat of the industry standard, and what this basically is, if you can get a look inside of there, it's really just it's just a compressor, and you put a bat inside of here. And this is made for a 2 3/4 as well as a 2 5/8 bat. But you put a bat inside of here after it's calibrated, and this is already calibrated. And then you see what type of pressure it takes to actually compress the barrel. So I'll give you an example, right? So, this bad boy just fits into this hole, into the back. And then you can see the top of this here. Actually, we'll tighten it down until it gets to 0. So you see that's they call that the preload. So you'll put it right on 0, right there. And then you'll grab this lever back here, and there's a name for these things, but it doesn't really matter. But you pull this up, and you'll see what happens here. So as we compress the barrel, you'll see that this drop 10 DeMarini has a pretty low compression. That means it doesn't take as much pressure. The lower the number, that means it actually compresses easier, if that makes sense. So you kind of notice these numbers. This is the CF. This is a 32-inch CF Zen 2018, right? DeMarini's version. Okay, so that's sort of fun to think about. And this is a USSSA bat. Let me show you the newer version of that. This is the CF9 compression. This is also the drop. Oh, this is the drop 8. Oh, I have the drop 10 right here. Let's see the 10 just so you can get, same bat. And so here's the mistake that a lot of people make. And the mistake is that they take a comparison of compression numbers, and then they start trying to determine which bat is better than another. So again, that's 0. So if I do that, this one's a little over 500. So does that mean that all the time then that the CF 2009, this bat here, the 2019 CF Zen, is not as good as the 2018 CF Zen? No, that's not exactly what that means. It just means that the barrel compressed easier. Does that mean the ball gets hit harder? Or further, or there's better trampoline? Not necessarily. And when you start assuming those things, that's not real science. A lot of people will do that online and say, well, the compression's worse or better, therefore it's a better or worse bat, and that's just not true. Within the same bat, so for example, if we went out and worked, and I think probably I don't know what there is the exact difference, but if we went out and worked this bat in or got it rolled, you'd find that compression number would drop, right? Because it would then be easier to push down. So it would work per bat, but across the board, it's really hard to make that determination. Here's the Rawlings Threat. Let me show you another example. This is a compression test on a USA bat, and I think a lot of people will be I don't know if the word is surprised, but you're going to see a dramatic difference. So again, we get that thing to 0, and then there you go. That is the compression of a USA bat. Dramatically different, right? Takes way more pressure to compress a USA bat than it does a USSSA bat. Dramatic amounts. So do they perform quite differently? They do. And is this the indication of it? No, it's not directly correlated, because I just spent a few seconds explaining to you why that's not necessarily always true. But let me show you a BBCOR bat, for example. Let's grab BBCOR. Here's just a custom Voodoo from a few years back from DeMarini. Let's check this guy out. So again, we get it to that preload number right there, and then we look familiar. Looks a heck of a lot like that USA bat, right? That's because the standard is real close to similar. They have sort of the same compression. And so maybe generally you can say, well, bats down here are going to perform different than bats up there. But it's really hard to say, well, one of those bats was 270 or 345, and the other one was 495. Therefore, one's better than the other. That's not true. Sort of on the margins, but maybe in big terms, that's it. Let's look at a wood bat. I think that's interesting to actually see. So here is here's here's a Victus bat, and this is birch. So this is a birch bat. Let's see the compression on a wood, just pure maple, or excuse me, pure birch. You can get a feel for where the compression is here. So there you go, 750. So again, does that mean, because birch compresses easier than those BBCOR bats, does that mean that birch is better than a BBCOR bat? No, not necessarily. In fact, their performance is supposed to be about the same in terms of pop, right? But it gives you a feel. It's kind of fun to think about that for a minute. Yeah, what else? Well, we got a lot up here. Let's do like the Cat 7. So here's an aluminum barrel. Perfect aluminum barrel, right? It's actually still in the wrapper, but compression is going to work just fine for that. So this is a 2 5/8 BBCOR 3330 Marucci Cat 7. Let's look at the compression for that. 1500, right? So a little bit lower than the other BBCOR bat that we tested. But again, you can't really make that determination across brands, but it is sort of an interesting number to say, okay, this one has a compression of 1500. Anyways, that's it. That's how compression works. That's what people are trying to measure when they do compression. Sometimes if you buy a shaved bat or you buy a rolled bat, which are both illegal and cheating, by the way, people try to prove that, hey, we really did shave it because, look, this is sort of a before and after compression test. They also use compression tests at different tournaments to see if bats have been below the limit and are illegal bats. They do a lot of fast pitch tournaments. Even like in pony baseball and things, there are certain thresholds that your bat has to compress by. Again, doesn't mean that the bat's performing over the limit, but some tournaments and some leagues assume that if it's below a certain number, then it's likely to be too hot. Although always not the case. In fact, in 2018, we don't have a Quattro here close by, but they actually lowered the threshold for the Quattro from Rawlings because it has a different threshold. In terms of its minimum amount of compression. I think they moved it to 800 from 1,000. So there you go, folks. That's compression in a nutshell. That's why they do compression. That's sort of kind of what it can tell you, and that's the difference between a BBCOR and a USA bat and a USSSA bat in compression.